guys. My name is Phil Quirk, and I'm the Chief Medical Officer of HeartHero. With me today is my medical partner of 20 years, Dr. James Bodenhamer. I've also had the joy of working with his wife, Sue Golan, for 15 years. And we've been very good friends. We've been neighbors, friends, and colleagues for a really long time, about 20 years, to be honest. Well, Dr. Bodenhamer is working now, and he's a busy guy, so we're going to ask him some questions. And Jim, just say hello and tell us about yourself. And then first question is going to be about your personal and professional experience with sudden cardiac arrest.
Well, thank you. I'm Jim Bodenhamer. I'm an emergency physician practicing in the Denver area and also up in Steamboat now. And I've been practicing for emergency medicine for about 25 years. Obviously, as emergency physicians, we always focus on cardiac arrests and what is the newest, greatest thing. But over the years, and as Bill can attest to, there's been lots of changes with ACLS protocols. But the one thing that's always remained stable has been and is early defibrillation. And I actually got interested with HeartHeroes after a personal experience. About 7 years ago, I was at a family reunion in a rural, beautiful lake in Arkansas. We had the whole family there. My brother and my wife and I were out water skiing early one morning. My brother skied a little while and stopped kind of unexpectedly. He came to the boat and he said he wasn't feeling very good. He thought maybe he pulled a muscle in his chest while he was skiing. And then pretty quickly he began to look ashen, diaphoretic, and his pain got significantly worse. When I questioned him a little bit about had he had it before, he said, well, when I was at the gym last week, I was working out and on the treadmill, the same pain came, but it stopped after I quit running. So we took the boat back to the dock. By the time we got back to the dock, which was about 5 minutes, he was super diaphoretic, unable to stand. My wife ran and got him some aspirin. We called 911, and I assisted him up to the house. When the ambulance arrived, it was, again, this is very rural Arkansas. It was a very lovely husband-wife EMT team who put him in the back of the ambulance. The nearest hospital was about 20 minutes away, and they were able to supply oxygen. They weren't excited for a family member to be in the back of the rig with them, so I was sitting up front. And as we were driving to the hospital, he became profoundly worse, to the point where he was minimally responsive at times, and the EMT asked that I do come back and maybe help. So I got back in the back of their ambulance and realized all they had was oxygen. There was no cardiac monitor, and more importantly, they did not have an AED. So essentially, I was watching my brother, who I was quite sure having a heart attack, get profoundly worse for 20 minutes while we were driving to the hospital. When we finally got there, we unloaded into the ER bay, and he immediately seized and arrested. I started CPR, and I asked the nurses to put him on a cardiac monitor and to call for the ER doc to come over and assist us. Eventually, we got him on a monitor. He was, in my mind, he was obviously had a VFib arrest, and they had an AED in their emergency department, which they put on, and it very promptly shocked him or defibrillated him, and he had sudden return of spontaneous circulation. His total CPR time was probably about 3 minutes before he was defibrillated. After that, this was, again, a small hospital in rural Arkansas. They were able to get a helicopter. He was flown to Little Rock, where he went to a cardiac center and had a stent of a 98% LAD done within about an hour. And he's doing great. But that whole experience made me realize that during the time in our boat, getting him back to shore, in the ambulance for the 20-minute drive. If he had arrested during that time period, I think his outcome would have been horrible because we had no access to rapid defibrillation. So after that event, I kind of heard about Heart Heroes and became interested and intrigued with the idea of having a small, relatively inexpensive defibrillator for home use or for other use. And I did question the EMT when we were driving. I asked them if they had a defibrillator, and they said, well, we have a very limited budget and we can't afford one. So that makes me all the more excited about Heart Heroes and their upcoming product.
Jim, didn't you hear about HeartHero first? Weren't you and Sue at a restaurant or on a patio and you saw Gary walking by? Gary Montague?
That is correct. We were having breakfast and he was having breakfast at the table next to us. So we sat down and I asked him what he's doing. And he showed me this little device that could deliver a shock with a 9-volt battery. And I thought it was crazy, but then got more and more intrigued.
That is classic story of CEO Gary Montague literally just sitting at a restaurant table and you guys sitting next to him, and we go from there and have evolved from a 9-volt to a better battery package and better engineering. But let's go back to what you talked about, a harrowing experience with your brother. And thank God he's doing great, and thank God you were there. Secondarily, let's talk about ACLS, the cardiac protocols that you and I have seen. I want you to touch on, like you said, and you mentioned it, things have come and gone back and forth. The pharmacology has changed, right? The medicines have changed. The do this, do that has changed. But you know what? When and how to shock somebody has remained constant our 25 years of practice, hasn't it?
That is the only thing that has stayed constant, that continues to improve outcome. So, yeah, the dose of epis change, vasopressin, lidocaine, all the medications they seem to come and go in favor, out of favor. But the one thing that has totally been constant and has been consistently shown to improve survival is early defibrillation.
Yeah, and I think on early, the word early is important, but secondarily, as early as possible is really important too, right? Hence what Gary and I and our entire HeartHero team has talked about is portability matters, right? The ability to have it with you, to have it portable, not have these 15-pound Goliaths that we have in the ER that you and I use, right? So does our portability resonate with you?
Oh, absolutely. I think I think the portability is important because the more portable it is, the more available it will be to people, to institutions. I can see it being standard in multiple industries, which right now do not have a small portable unit, and they can't afford, or they don't have the space for a large, heavy AED.
I agree. I think that's key, and it's completely automated. Literally, all the person has to do is put the pads on, and the machine takes over. Just as the ones that you and I work with do the same, where the product uses the same waveform that you and I use in the emergency department. So it's nice to have a smaller bundle that's as effective as a big giant machine that that the hospitals deploy. We have talked a little bit about having obviously every EMS vehicle now has them. You see them at the airports, but we're actually trying to make it a personal consumer product. That's something you take with you on a hike, something you throw in the boat, something that you carry in your car, and not only does it make it safer for you, but also makes you, I say it's like arming an army, right? Because if you have it in your car and you see somebody on the side of the road that's having sudden cardiac arrest, their time to fibrillation, because you have the product, will be dramatically decreased.
Absolutely.
So you and I talked about yesterday about ECMO, and I want to throw that story in there just because there's ECMO, which is extracorporeal membrane oxygenation for the viewers, is a really important modality, and the study was being done on sudden cardiac arrest. And so what they did, they had to stop the study. Studies get stopped for most of the time because the stuff doesn't work. The whatever you're studying is not working. But sometimes it gets stopped because it's too good, and that's called stopping a study for superiority. So it was the results were so superior they had to stop the study with the patients after sudden cardiac arrest getting ECMO, and all these patients had been shocked, and they get ECMO, and they saw a really significant increase in their outcomes. So we're foreseeing a time where the outcomes are going to get better and better because you're going to get shocked earlier because of the portability of like the HeartHero Elliott product. And secondarily, you're going to have a modality in the hospital called ECMO that will increase survival rates. And Jim, I want to finish with want to ask you, what are your thoughts on post-COVID on the cardiac and pulmonary effects of COVID? I know it's a little too, we're not seeing it. You and I are not seeing it in the ER yet, but I don't think cardiopulmonary things are going to get better if you had specifically a prolonged course of COVID-19.
Oh, I would agree with that. I think we're finding that the inflammatory response from COVID, myocarditis causing heart failure, and then underlying pulmonary injury is going to do nothing but increase the likelihood of seeing more and more cases of sudden cardiac arrest.
I agree. And the number the American Heart Association number is, 1,000 people a day in America. So it's about 365,000 people. And I see that number going up, sadly going. And I think the need for a portable, affordable AED is even greater now than it was pre-COVID, like, February of this year. So we're really excited to get our first regulatory approval. I want to thank you and Sue for being a huge part of it and for your faith and kindness. And I want to thank you very much for doing this interview.
Well, you're welcome. It's an exciting and revolutionary product, and I think it will save lives. And I'm very excited to be part of it and to share my story.
Thanks, Jim.